Hello, everyone. It is my honor to welcome you to this press event as IQAir unveils the 2024 World Air Quality Report. I'm Armin Aradian. This report is a crucial analysis of global air pollution trends and the challenges we face in protecting public health. The 2024 World Air Quality Report is a collaborative effort among IQAir's science team using air quality measurement data from around the world. Joining us today are IQAir Global CEO Frank Hammes and IQAir Air Quality Science Manager Dr. Christy Chester Schroeder. We'd like to begin today with brief remarks by both of our speakers, and then we'll open it up to questions. To begin, I'd like to introduce you to Frank Hammes, IQAir's Global CEO. Frank has set IQAir's ambitious goal to increase the availability and visibility of air quality data around the world. Under his leadership, IQAir is now in its 7th year in its global effort to provide the most comprehensive annual summary of the state of global air quality. Frank, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you all for joining us today. Air pollution is the greatest environmental threat to human health, with an estimated 7 million premature deaths worldwide every year. By releasing the World Air Quality Report, IQAir hopes to engage, inform, and inspire governments, industry, and citizens to take action to accelerate the efforts to reduce air pollution and improve the health of millions of global citizens. The 2024 World Air Quality Report compiles, analyzes, and contextualizes air quality for nearly 9,000 global cities for the 2024 calendar year. IQAir's data is based on PM2.5 data from over 40,000 ground-level air quality monitoring stations in 138 countries, regions, and territories. This report focuses on PM2.5, as it is by far the most harmful global air pollutant. PM2.5 penetrates every part of our body, including our lungs, our heart, and even our brain. PM2.5 is responsible for over 90% of all deaths attributed to air pollution. Before I dive into some details of the report, please let me share some good news. Of the nearly 9,000 cities covered in the report, over half, 4,817 to be exact, had improved air quality in 2024. And PM2.5 levels have dropped in 79 countries relative to 2023. In 2024, 7 countries met the World Health Organization's annual PM2.5 guideline of 5 micrograms per cubic meter. Those countries are Australia, the Bahamas, Barbados, Estonia, Grenada, Iceland, and New Zealand. 5 territorial regions also met the WHO guidelines: Bermuda, French Polynesia, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and Montserrat. Despite these improvements, 91% of countries, territories, and regions exceeded the WHO annual PM2.5 guideline in 2024, highlighting the ongoing challenges in global air quality. In fact, the situation remains dire in many regions, with Chad, Bangladesh, and Pakistan ranking as the top 3 most polluted countries in the world, each experiencing PM2.5 concentrations more than 14 times above the WHO guideline. Moreover, only 17% of cities worldwide met the WHO PM2.5 guideline. The situation is particularly challenging in Central and South Asia, where the region was home to the 7 most polluted cities globally. Notably, India accounted for 74 of the 100 most polluted cities in the world. India's expanding air quality monitoring network is a primary reason we have a clear understanding of the widespread nature of elevated PM2.5 levels across that country. In contrast, many other regions lack such robust monitoring systems, leaving us in the dark about the true extent of their air quality challenges. Without comprehensive data, it is impossible to fully assess or address the problem, highlighting the critical role monitoring plays in raising awareness and driving informed action. In South America, wildfires in the Amazon led to hazardous level of air pollution in Brazil, Peru, and Paraguay, with several states in Brazil experiencing air pollution levels that quadrupled compared to their 2023 averages. In the United States, PM2.5 levels fell significantly relative to 2023, when Canadian wildfire smoke heavily impacted the upper Midwest and Mid-Atlantic regions. In 2024, Los Angeles emerged as the most pollutant major city in the US, This ranking reflects the persistent impact of local pollution factors, such as vehicle emissions, industrial activities, meteorological patterns, and geographic conditions. While the 2024 World Air Quality Report covers nearly 9,000 cities around the globe, we fully acknowledge that much more air quality data is needed. At IQAir, we're expanding programs like Schools for Earth with the goal of bringing real-time monitoring to 1 million schools around the world, engaging and empowering the next generation to take charge of our environment. Action is required from governments, industries, and individuals. We're calling for stronger policies, stronger enforcement of existing policies, increased investment in clean energy, and a global commitment to improving air quality for everyone. Together, we can make clean air a reality, not just a privilege.
Thank you, Frank. Next, please meet Dr. Christy Chester-Schroeder, Air Quality Science Manager at IQAir North America. Christy holds a PhD in physical chemistry from the University of Southern California and has over a decade of air quality experience, spanning positions in the regulatory community, academia, and the private sector. Christy, thank you as well for being with us today.
Thank you. And I appreciate everyone being with us today. I'd like to take a moment to discuss how IQAir collects and processes the data that makes this report possible. IQAir's Air Visual platform aggregates real-time data from more than 40,000 air quality monitoring stations worldwide. We are a sensor-agnostic platform, compiling data from both government-operated regulatory instruments and low-cost sensors. Before publication, the data undergoes a thorough quality assurance process to verify its accuracy. Each monitoring station records hourly PM2.5 measurements, generating over 8,700 hours of data per year. The station-level data is then used to generate city-level averages. Only cities meeting a 60% data availability threshold are included in the report. This city data is then weighted by population to create the annual averages reported for the countries, regions, and territories. This is the most comprehensive global report thus far. However, there are multiple global areas where access to air quality data is severely lacking. Africa remains the most underrepresented continent, with only one monitor for every 3.7 million people. By contrast, this ratio in the US is about one monitor for every 17,000 people. This year, only 24 of Africa's 54 countries had sufficient data availability to be included in the report. However, 5 of the 10 most polluted global countries this year are in Africa. This underscores the urgent need for expanded air quality monitoring across the continent, as limited data availability may mean the true scale of pollution is even worse than reported. In 2024, Chad once again ranks as the world's most polluted country. It previously held this position in 2022, but was absent from the 2023 report due to insufficient data. Air quality monitoring in Chad remains extremely limited, which prevented its inclusion last year. In fact, this could be the last year we are able to include Chad in the World Air Quality Report due to the US State Department's announcement that they are ending their air quality monitoring program due to a lack of funding. This program produced real-time air quality data at US embassies and consulates around the world and was impactful in many places as the sole source of publicly accessible real-time air quality data. Notably, this initiative played a crucial role in the development of China's extensive air quality monitoring program, which has been instrumental in tracking and addressing pollution levels in that region. As Frank mentioned, expanding air quality monitoring networks is crucial to understanding and addressing air pollution. This year, 62% of the data in our report comes from low-cost sensors, which is really a testament to the dedication of citizen scientists who monitor their communities. However, reliance on non-regulatory monitors also highlights the need for more government investment in air quality infrastructure. Dozens of countries remain absent from this report simply because of a lack of monitoring capacity. One extremely important issue highlighted in this year's report is the disproportionate health burden of air pollution on children. Due to their developing lungs and higher respiratory rates, children are especially vulnerable to the harmful effects of PM2.5 pollution. Exposure to high levels of fine particulate matter has been linked to respiratory diseases, impaired cognitive development, and an increased risk of chronic health conditions later in life. In many of the most polluted regions, children face daily exposure to PM 2.5 concentrations well above recommended safety limits, which can have lifelong consequences for their health and well-being. Finally, I want to reiterate an important point, that is the fact that air quality and climate change are deeply interconnected. Both issues share a common driver, the burning of fossil fuels. Fossil fuel emissions are responsible for 65% of the global increase in CO2 emissions and are also a leading cause of PM 2.5 related deaths. Climate change influences weather patterns, which in turn affects the dispersion and removal of PM 2.5 from the atmosphere. Each of the past 10 years has set new record high temperatures, with air pollution playing a significant role. As catastrophic weather events become more frequent and severe, air quality challenges are also expected to worsen. The most effective way to reduce air pollution is to cut fossil fuel consumption. To address both air quality and public health, we must invest in renewable energy initiatives and expand the global air quality monitoring network, particularly in underrepresented areas.
Thank you, Frank and Christy. We'd now like to open the floor to questions from journalists. If you do have a question, please click on reactions to raise your hand, and we'll select you in the order your hands are raised. Once it is your turn to speak, we'll unmute your microphone. Please state your name and news outlet. And if you'd like to ask a question to a specific speaker, please be sure to direct the question to them. We'll leave your mic open during the opportunity in case you have any follow-ups, but we do ask you to limit the number of follow-ups so everyone attending does have an opportunity. We'd now like to open the floor. Please click the raise hand button if you do have a question. Diego Mendoza, go ahead. Diego, are you speaking? We're having a little bit of trouble hearing you. Diego, one more time, please.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I apologize for that. I don't know what was going on there. I just wanted to ask, I wonder what you hope that residents of these various cities that you identify in the reporting. I'm with El Paso Matters in El Paso, Texas, which is, I think, the 9th most polluted city in the US. So I wonder what you hope residents of these cities take away from this report. And then also policymakers, right? I mean, you identify renewable energy. And so I wonder what other steps you think policymakers can take to address air quality issues. So wonder how you think, both residents and policymakers should take away from this report.
Christy?
Okay. One of the really main purposes of the report is to raise general awareness. I hope that residents, particularly in El Paso, take a look at the report and the data in the report and really use it to inform themselves about the quality of the air that they're breathing. Texas has actually a pretty sparse air quality monitoring network relative to its size. And so not all residents can always have hyperlocal air quality data. So it's important to raise awareness about locations where there's some lacking infrastructure. Also, to really just arm themselves with information. The goal is to raise awareness, to help people protect their health, right? To get conversations started and to start even grassroots effort. There is an amazing amount of power that comes in grassroots effort. When people are aware and informed of what's going on around them, they can then put pressure on local governments to be better. And there's been a lot of movement globally when this happens. And so, yeah, our intention is really to raise awareness and really keep the conversation going around air quality.
Neil Kamal, go ahead.
Yeah, as it comes from India, and I was very surprised to see the report, as India is the 5th most polluted country, and Delhi is the most polluted capital. So out of 174 cities from India are really disturbing air quality, more than 10 times that WHO guidelines limits. So is there any, not only India, even Bangladesh and Pakistan, the entire South Asia is just on the very negative side of the air quality. So, is there any chance to improve, as you have said, that out of the 9,408, 4,800 cities have improved their air quality? Is there any chance, do you think, from the South Asia that they could also be in the list, that very list, which could be pleasing for the South Asia?
I think the challenges we have in that region are obviously coming from known sources. And ultimately, I think having the monitoring in more places will help us to identify more of these sources. Ultimately, I think the dirty fuels being burned in this part of the world are mainly responsible for the plight in terms of air pollution that people are experiencing. And unfortunately, it starts with the households even, right? Using the dirtiest of the fuels many times for heating, for cooking. And ultimately, alternative heating sources and cooking sources need to be found to bring down these pollution levels. But then also enforcement is an important part in that part of the region. We know that the kilns being used to produce bricks, the factories running on very dirty fuel are all part of that. So I think right now the visibility that's being created in India with over 500 stations reporting air quality there is a good start. And we see that many other regions around this area would be benefiting from more air quality monitoring going on.
But as far as the energy transition is concerned, which is the one of the factors of the worsening the air quality, we are seeing a sea change in India as we are heading into a revolution into solar energy as well as then wind energy. So, despite doing a wonderful job on that count, the air quality is not going on the better side. So you are just mentioning that it's cooking habits are with dirty wood stocks or whatever it is. But even in cooking, India has improved. They have now using the LPGs most of the time, most of the households. I don't think that the traditional firewood or something like that is being used extensively now.
Yeah, I think there obviously remain challenges in any transition, especially because typically cleaner fuels mean they're more expensive, right? And this is then a question how government can set the right incentives for the adoption of cleaner fuels and cleaner heating sources. So I think there's no easy solution, but on a local level, I think solutions can be found if the pressure is there, because ultimately there needs to be a balance between the cost of improving air quality, right, and then the awareness that that actually is very desirable in terms of health and especially for children's health in that region.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Again, if anyone has a question, please hit the raise hand button and we can unmute you. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Lise Dunton. Go ahead.
Yeah, Lisi, thank
Lise,
you.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry I got in a little late here, but I'm wondering about indoor air quality. Have you been covering that, or will you? Or that's sometimes, as we know, indoor air can be worse than outside. What kind of would you like to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so the World Air Quality Report is all about outdoor air quality.
Okay.
But obviously, as you're saying, indoor air quality is an important place. We're spending a lot of time indoors. We're finding that indoor air quality is being determined in many parts of the world by the quality of the air outdoors. So whatever happens outdoors will reach indoors. It's only in the cleanest countries in the report that you'll actually find that the indoor activities will be dominating the overall exposure. And I don't want to expand, I should expand on that though, that obviously cooking indoors with dirty fuels is probably the highest exposure to air pollution that people will face indoors, especially in developing countries.
Interesting. And how would you describe dirty fuels? I mean, what does that?
It would be anything in terms of air quality, maybe the order starts with people burning plastic, right? That could be some of the dirtiest fuel that you would ever find. And unfortunately, it's being used for heating in quite a few developing countries. Then I would say you go to wood, and after wood, you go to coal, and then you would go to gas, right? And we're having the gas discussion in the Western world right now in order to see whether we can bring even down that air pollution. But gas is a relatively clean source for cooking and for heating.
And then electricity probably being the best, I guess. Huh?
If it's produced clean, that's obviously the best, yes.
Interesting, great. But might you be planning, well, I guess it would be hard to gauge indoor air quality around the world. I guess you could put conceivably, monitors in certain indoor places to see what's
at IQAir, we do monitor indoor air quality. We have many thousands of households around the world that are using air quality monitors that are actually using our platform to see their air quality data. But I think this is definitely an opportunity for the future to see actually how different cities indoor environment might be affected and what additional actions they can take to protect themselves.
Great. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Again, if you have a question, please hit the raise hand button. We did have one question come through the chat, so either Frank or Christy, if you'd like to take this. It says, what are some examples of effective policy decisions that have been implemented based on previous IQAir reports, and what impact have they had on air quality improvement?
Well, I think you might be better equipped to answer this.
I think we've seen many regional improvements because of a general awareness. And I would say that our report is obviously part of creating a general interest in air quality, understanding that this is one of the things that needs collaboration. We've seen many cities in South America, for example, recently through one of our monitoring projects, improve air quality around kindergartens, right? Paving streets can be a tremendously effective way to reduce air pollution because vehicles driving over unpaved streets produce PM 2.5, also PM 10, which is can be quite harmful. So we've seen that local initiatives have been taken to create green zones, and obviously also to limit the activity of particularly polluting industries in relation to very sensitive institutions. So that's one example from South America that I see. And this was an organization, Christy, that's called?
Yeah, this was an organization called Aires Nuevos. Yeah, they were operating in 9 different Latin American countries. They had a really successful program raising air quality awareness in elementary schools, in kindergartens, and places where really the most sensitive groups are with young children.
If anyone else has any questions for our speakers, please hit the raise hand button. right, I think that is all the questions we have for today. We have one more from Lisi. Go ahead, Lisi.
Yeah, hi, just one more. I'm from New York City here on the Upper West Side. Um, can you say how New York is doing with the air pollution or the air purity? Do you have off the top of your head?
I
you know?
don't.
Okay.
I think generally, what we can generally say is that the East Coast was less affected by wildfires, right, in 2024 compared to 2023, when obviously we had a terrible wildfire season for New York City. And I think what we're seeing this year, as we're seeing for Los Angeles, a lot more of the homegrown air pollution within the city actually affecting the city. And I think we'll see whether the congestion patterns and so on will make a difference. We know that New York City, at least temporarily, has implemented some traffic reduction measurements. Those could be quite beneficial. I don't think you have that much industry in the region that is affecting air quality. So we think, but I think the wildfires definitely helped to improve air quality in 2024.
Yeah, there were definitely elevated levels in 2023 from the transboundary smoke migration from the Canadian wildfires. So without the numbers, just off the top of my head, I would suspect that levels dropped. Yeah, it definitely will be interesting to see what happens with the traffic congestion issues. We've seen really successful programs like this in London that has contributed to air pollution levels dropping there. So I'm excited to see what happens in New York City.
Great, yeah. I remember that well, taking out duct tape and trying to insulate my windows correctly so I could breathe. Yeah, interesting times. I'm glad it's gotten better. Thank you.
Laura, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I have a question, and is that if the U.S. discontinues its air quality monitoring program in the Global South countries, what alternative of collaboration or policy decisions can other nations or organizations take to fill this gap and ensure that we keep having air quality monitoring and action, for example, in Latin America?
I think right now this is a really tough spot. The quality of the measurements done at the U.S. embassies and consulates around the world was regulatory quality measurements. So they've served not only to provide information, but also to allow for calibration purposes of the low-cost sensors locally. We're seeing now a trend that more and more embassies are picking up low-cost sensors because they're so much easier and less expensive to operate. I think if the US discontinues the program, which we hope there might be a change of heart, hopefully there, but if they do discontinue that, there might be the opportunity for other embassies and consulates to pick this up. We think the program overall was very cost effective. We try to do an estimate of how much the State Department would need to spend to keep this program alive. And we came to a figure where we said it would probably be less than $50,000 a year in keeping a program going like that. And we'd love to help to see whether this is something that the cost can be brought down, because that data is very, very valuable. And we understand that there is also a duty for all the State Department employees that are being deployed around the world to receive this reliable data in terms of air quality. And I think it was one of those soft diplomacy initiatives that's incredibly effective in terms of its impact in the host countries, and especially for the population there, because we also know that many governments around the world are actually not so keen for that transparent data to be there. So it was breaking that silence and that inertia in many countries where this data is available. Christy?
Yes, I mean, I think you covered most of it. I would just say also that these monitors were run by volunteers. They weren't necessarily scientists that were doing. So there's not a huge technical investment required for these things. I think that you could train people very quickly. There was a collaboration with Columbia that the university, not the country, that went and trained these staff. And I think that the benefit of having this monitoring available so drastically outweighs the really minimal cost that's associated with it. If you look at the economics of it, the investment in air quality monitoring and emissions abatement so drastically outweighs the economic cost of the amortized healthcare costs that come with exposure to poor quality air. So I think that it is incredibly meaningful, not just for people's health, but it's the economically smart thing to do.
If you have any questions, again, please raise your hand. Laura, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I have an additional question about Chile. I don't know if maybe this is very specific, but in the report, we saw that Chile is leading Latin American countries with stations, and in the report you mentioned and the government mentions that they have 113. So I would like to clarify, based on what you just said, if these are monitors that are independent ones or from IQAir, or if they are part of the monitoring stations from the governments. Thank you.
I think Chile has a quite robust government network of monitors. So we actually see that this is definitely one of the leading countries in the region in terms of the government involvement. If you go on our website, you will actually see quite clear data attribution. If you go to the country of Chile, you would actually see that you can see on the top of the page data attribution, and you would actually see we're typically categorizing the contributors clearly by governments, diplomatic efforts, educational contributors, corporate contributors, nonprofit contributors, and individual contributors. So you can do this for any country in the world, for any city in the world. It's one really, it's one pillar of our work that we do, that we are transparent about where the data comes from. We have a lot of government contributors, but we also have a lot of non-governmental contributors, and you can actually see that attribution down to every station.
We have time for a couple more questions if anyone wants to ask Frank or Christy anything. Again, please hit the raise hand button so we can unmute you. All right, so at this time, we'll conclude the question portion of this press availability. If you have any further questions, or if you'd like a more in-depth one-on-one interview with one of our speakers, please feel free to email pr.na@iqair.com. Again, that email is pr.na@iqair.com. A recording of this event will be posted on IQAir's YouTube channel later today. And thank you again for joining IQAir for the release of the 2024 World Air Quality Report. Thank you to Frank and Christy, everyone who contributed to this report, and all those attending. Have a great rest of your days.